I'm a fan of fantasy, so I listen to Easy and Alan on their Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. During the show, you can live chat with Easy and Alan at lennymelnickfantasysports.com. Rumour has it, Lenny only swings one way, with Launch Angle. Now here's Easy and Chris Allen.
And welcome to another Wednesday night at 10 o'clock at lennymelnickfantasysports.com, the Legend Sports Network. This is another episode of, and our last episode of our first year, a Fantasy Fan Sportscast. And I have my co-host, Mr. Chris Allen. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing well.
And you do like my new head and my logo?
I know. I like it.
I know.
You got a little bit of technology going on back there.
I know.
So I dig it.
I dig it. I mean, I'm working on it. It's still a work in progress. The good thing, last night I had echo at the beginning and everything. I know. Thanks, Lou. Lou said I have a pretty face out there, the YouTubers. And again, I'm trying to do enough of this so that the other Lenny Melnick host will want to do some video. You know, I'm trying to get them all pumped up because we are the only. I mean, there's a few that do some things here and there, you know, through Hangouts and all that, but we're the only. Yeah. I mean, 100% video oriented, you know, thing. And see, I have the ability to now switch and see the chat room. So, you know, and that's part of my goal too, is that, you know, on YouTube, the chat room, you know, can pop up. People can see what's going on behind us. And, you know, later on, we'll be able to show plays or show, you know, maybe mock drafts. We'll be able to have that behind us. So a lot of goals for the future of a Fantasy Fan Sportscast with Easy Kill and Mr. Chris Allen. So
this is going to work for as long as until you dick around with it long enough to screw it up.
Thank you.
How this is going to work.
I've been messing with it now for 2 weeks. So
you're going to keep messing with it, then you're going to break it.
Okay, that may be true, but at the same time, you know, it's still fun. I got nothing else to do. I mean, I drink, I eat a little bit. You know, when it's not 14 degrees, I barbecue. So, all right, but you know, hey, but yeah, I'm able to do everything. I mean. And maybe I'm even working to where someday we'll have you in the box with, like, you know, some like nice little verbiage. Is that a word? I don't know. Some verbiage below you that, you know, says everything about you. But you're so out there in the fantasy world that I need about half of the screen just to describe where people can find you and where you're at and your articles. Right. So
I'm not doing much now.
I know.
I'm in the background. I'm background noise, man. I'm taking it's the off season now.
It is the off season. So I'm the one doing all the work and doing
You're the one that's out here, you know, doing like 3 or 4 shows a week.
Well, hey, the roundtable was a blast last night. Again, I have, it is just fun. You did say, I think you listened to it. We had Greg on. We had Greg on from our chat room, which I didn't know, or none of us knew until last night. He's been in the chat room for a while now, a little bit. But he is a blind person from birth.
I did not know that.
And him describing sports was just interesting. I mean, I've never really talked to somebody, you know, obviously with that handicap that's a sports fan. So he's obviously coming at this, you know, with a different outlook or a different you know, view than what other people have. So it was interesting. But yeah, we had a good time last night. Went about 2.5 hours. Had 3 new guests that had never been on before, so that was kind of fun. And you know, we had a good time. Other than that, how are you doing? I think I asked you, and then I interrupted you because I'm so excited about my head that can bobble and weave.
I know, and that's all I can stare at now. It's just you sitting there doing like this over here.
All right,
doing this number. But no, I'm good. We had some good football this past weekend, and some good football ahead of us.
We will get to that. Right. Yes. We will get to that. I mean, there's all kinds of things going on, you know, with what happened and what's going to happen and all that. Enough to where it was hard for us to even, you know, for me to decide where we're going to start and everything. Lou Landers is out there in the chat room. Again, the show before us, I don't know, the Mets 360 show, I don't know if they were having problems or anything. I know they were trying some things. Maybe they're just trying to keep up with us and couldn't pull it off.
Mostly just you, because I got the low rent, tech going on over here.
I don't have an award. I keep using the word trophy. I don't have the award hanging. I don't have that medallion, but
then nobody would see it if I did the green screen like you. I'd have to actually wear it. Don't
say green screen. I want people to think, I have someone behind me doing this.
Oh, okay.
Right.
All right. We don't want to ruin the illusion.
Right.
I understand.
Right.
All right.
Easy is just the crazy man behind the curtain. Yes. That's all.
Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain.
Or the guy in front of the curtain, as that might be.
Yes.
So, we have things to talk about, but you know me. I mean, starting with football right off the bat, how boring would that be since everyone today's been talking football and yesterday football, roundtable football. This Australian Open has me hooked. I know, it does. I mean, Federer went out early.
Yes.
The number 2 seed, Serena, and the fact this is on at night. I've been staying up till like 2 and 3 in the morning. Or if I know the matches that are coming on at like 5 in the morning, I go to bed a little early and try to get up to watch those.
Right.
I don't know. There's something about it being, the first Grand Slam of the year.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously the players aren't in, they're not in player shape, maybe. I mean, I'm saying they're athletes. They're always in shape, but, It's early. It's a 2-week tournament. That's the big, a lot of people don't realize the big difference in Grand Slams is that they go for 2 weeks. There's a lot more tennis involved. The whole thing. And down in Australia, it's like 100 degrees, so, I mean, they just have to come up and be ready and be prepared. So you do get more upsets, I've always felt, in the Australian Open for you people who don't care about tennis.
I
mean, and I enjoy upsets. There's nothing wrong with that. So, but the big thing was Serena last night.
Getting injured?
Well, she's even come out and said that the injury didn't have anything to do with her losing.
She didn't look to be in that much pain, but there were a couple of, after a few sets, it looked like she was grabbing at that ankle a little bit. But otherwise, I thought for the most part, it looked like she played pretty much the same.
Well, she's not using it as an excuse. She's come right out and she was up 5-1.
Blew that lead. Mm-hmm.
To blow that lead at 5-1. Now
that's like the Falcons and the Patriots blowing the 27-3 lead.
That's a huge lead. And she was, how do I want to say this? She was the favorite, but not, what I'm saying? She was the favorite in a lot of bookies' eyes, but she was the lower seed. Which I thought was a lot anyway in this tournament. I don't know how you have Serena seeded 16 anyway.
I don't know how any of that works.
So, well, it has a lot to do with world rankings and some of that because she's been off last year and injuries last year. Obviously, her seeding didn't go as high. She's just seeded a little lower than. But I would have thought if they would put her at 7 or 8, but not 16. That's ridiculous. But
right.
I'm just saying it was a fun match to watch, and to see somebody like that, I mean, you just don't expect that kind of a, for them to get beat when they're up 5. I mean, 5-1. People were going to bed, here in America, and then you wake up and
happen. And to see her lost. I mean, and they were saying that the woman that she lost to, she's lost to her the 5th most times.
Right, of active players.
Of active players. Yeah,
right.
That woman's beat her that many times. So, I mean, that's pretty impressive to have that track record against one of the greatest.
Right. I mean, it's just I know this isn't sometimes it's not even a football site that we're on here at the Legend Sports Network, which now why do we do sports? Which Legend Sport Network, Lenny Melnick, fantasysports.com, they now have apparel. So you can now go to the website and order apparel. Now, I didn't see any Fantasy Fan apparel yet. So
we'll get there. We're
going to have to get there. There's a few other things. The Fisticuffs and the Legends Network has hats and some of that stuff. So you can now click a button. There's also mock baseball drafts. That's new for Lenny's site this year. So
I'm going to find out what I can order. I'm going to order myself a T-shirt or something like that.
You can get T-shirts. You can get a beach blanket with a couple of Lenny's sayings and Poppycock and Bullwinkle or something, Bulldinkle. One of Lenny's big sayings is on there, or just the Legend Sports Network. That's on there. The Fisticuff show that comes on, Thursdays and Mondays. They have they said, again, we got to get us some.
We'll get us some t-shirts out there.
Fantasy Fan Sportscast, right. Chris and Easy, hanging out type shirts.
Yeah.
I'm kind of a tank top guy. I think a Fantasy Fan tank top for the young, for any ladies, even the old ladies, there's nothing like an old lady rocking a tank top or, something like that. So
that's really not my cup of tea, but hey, if it works for you, you do what you got to do. And hey, I'm all about a tank top, especially come summertime. Sun's out, guns out, baby.
Right. The Chris Guns. There you go. That's right. There's nothing like mowing grass in a tank top, right?
You got to have the right body for that. But yeah, I'm with you.
You got to have now Lou Landers, who's on this network a lot of shows. Lou has rocked the tank top before on my show on video. So
that's what I'm talking about.
Lou will rock that tank. He doesn't hold back. So hey, I give him that. I give him that. All right, let's I'm going to start off with and our big topic of the day, which means in 55 minutes, we are going to talk about, which we did at the end of last week's show. I've kind of brought up. I want to discuss the fantasy topic of what are the spokes of the wheel. What are what are the skills you can have as a fantasy football player? And these will have to be manageable or, you know what I'm saying? They have to be skills that can be taught, learned. You can better yourself. You know what I'm saying? So we're going to get to that at the end. But,
okay.
But the first thing is just, and I'm switching sides now because of it. The Tom Brady hate is just, I don't know. I've been around a while. I am a sports guy. I've listened to a lot of stuff and all that. I don't recall this much hate this long. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and I realize he's been successful for a long time, but the hate just seems like growing and growing and growing. But so that makes me bring out a few names, one which we've already talked about tonight, of other people that I know in my history of watching sports also had a lot of hate out there. The difference is, and you maybe if you think I'm wrong, tell me, but these are people that the hate went away eventually. As they got older. And the very first one we already mentioned is Serena. Serena Williams, for a while early on, there was a lot of hate because, there was, just rumors and things, and she just literally won everything. And there was a lot of hate. Tiger Woods, at one point, there was a lot of hate. I mean, he was not the loved person that he is today. I'm sorry. I mean, I remember when he was early on as a young kid whooping a bunch of, I don't want to say it this way. He was white. He was whooping a bunch of old white golfers' butts. And there was a lot of hate. Kobe Bryant had a lot of hate for a while. I'm sorry. I mean, a lot of hate, but it went away as he got older. Jerry Rice had some hate out there. I know there's a lot of people now that would say, no, there wasn't. Yes, the 49ers and Jerry Rice, there was some hate.
Yes.
So am I right? Are those all people that had, and I'm going to say pretty good amounts of hate, but eventually that hate turned into respect? Why is that not happening to Tom Brady?
I think the biggest thing with each of the players, like athletes that you've mentioned so far, I think there was just a level of understanding of, they are actually at the top spot. And I think there's an understanding that we as fans, we know that you're one of the best in the world. And so then I think there's a level of, I don't want to say authority, but there is something that comes with the way that most of those players accepted that level of authority, where it was either talking trash for Jerry Rice, it was maybe that quiet but not necessarily outspoken demeanor that both Serena and Tiger had, or whatever. But I think with Tom Brady's case, it's slightly different because, I think the biggest thing that I've seen over the past couple of weeks is this I don't know if it's self-prescribed or whatever, but it's this underdog notion that I've been seeing come about, like from the Patriots camp over the last couple of weeks, like with Julian Edelman with this bet against us thing, and Tom Brady saying, well, I mean, everybody thinks that we suck and all
That's been the Patriots way since Belichick got there, though.
No, but I don't think so, because when they had that perfect season, that was not the case. And I don't think that was the case even a couple of years ago. But over here, over these past couple of weeks, and like they both come out and had this like underdog. So
you're saying Tom Brady's whoa is me attitude is what's keeping people in this.
That's what's bothered me the whole time. It's like, you're going to tell me that the number one franchise in the NFL for the past decade and a half plus now are these heroic underdogs that are going to win the Super Bowl. Come on.
Okay.
Man.
I mean,
give me a break.
But I would also say, I mean, he has an arrogance about him, but it is different than these other people I named. These other people I named, they had some brass balls for a while. I mean, Kobe, had some attitude,
attitude.
Tiger had the attitude. So is that part of the problem too? People don't respect Brady as much because he doesn't bring the attitude. He just wins.
It just give me something. I mean, just be honest with me. That's my problem with it. It's like, don't act like you're not good when obviously you don't. You go out there, you score 34 points a game.
So you're mad at the guy for being modest. You're mad at the guy for being modest.
That's not being modest. Stop it. Oh, woe is me. Everybody thinks we suck. Julian Edelman's out here selling T-shirts that say "Bet against us." Oh no, we've just won 5 Super Bowl rings and going for a 6th.
So you're saying this isn't going to go away. He's going to retire hated. He's going to retire hated. He's not going to have one of those seasons where people go, you know what? Maybe I do feel bad for the guy. He's 46 years old. Maybe now I'll root for him.
No, I think he'll retire as one of the greatest athletes of all time. That's how he'll retire. And I think he'll retire with respect. I really do. I just think that this act over the past couple of weeks has been the most bothersome. The rest of it doesn't really bother me. It's so just the woe is me portion.
That means, though, do you think retirement time frame changes with win or lose with a win or a loss in this Super Bowl?
No, I don't think so.
You think he's coming back regardless?
I think he'll make the decision independent of what happens in the Super Bowl. I mean, sure, he'll surpass Jordan as the winningest athlete of all time, having the most championship rings. So that might be a milestone that him and Belichick want to hit and maybe just completely leave. But I don't really think that's the case.
Right.
So, I mean, the linchpin of all this is most likely Gronk, who can decide to leave whenever he wants to. But for Brady personally, I don't think he'll leave until he actually wants to. I
think Gronk retires after the Super Bowl 100% if they win. Yes. I think he even announces it that night if they win.
Oh, that wouldn't surprise me at all.
If they lose, obviously, who knows? But I don't know. The problem is all this hate has flipped me. I mean, I'm not a guy who hates a lot of people anyway. We've talked about that. I don't throw that hate word out that much. But I've wanted him to lose for a while. You know what I'm saying? But now I find myself, I'm rooting for him. You know what? All you guys hating, that's fine. I hope he wins again. I want the GOAT to keep being GOAT while I'm alive. Let the GOAT eat, baby.
I don't think this changes anything.
Feed the GOAT.
Feed the GOAT. If they wind up losing the Super Bowl, going to 2 Super Bowls in a row is huge. Having 5 Super Bowl championships is huge. Going to the AFC Championship 8 games straight, or like 8 times in a row.
And it's like 11 out of 12.
I mean, you can't. There's nothing topping that. So win or loss in the Super Bowl, I don't think it changes anything.
No, I don't think it's going to change attitudes either. I mean,
no, it's not. I mean, it's not like he's not
I think it's out there. If they win, people will hate him even more. He has to lose to start that hate coming back. Now, I have 4 other names, which, okay, I think any great name you throw out there, there's a handful of haters. I don't think there's not. Now, I'm going to throw one out, though, that I would say I've never heard a hate word about. But the difference I'll name the first 3, and the difference I have is these 3 were loved from the very beginning, and I think it's harder to hate once you loved them at the beginning, because they either were stars early on or just a lot of things going on, where the other ones we named, Tiger, Serena, Colby, Jeter, and Rice, no one necessarily, they were all good athletes, but no one thought they were going to be the superstars they were. Right. Okay. But Michael Jordan, were there haters of Michael Jordan? Sure. Yes. But not near the haters there is for Tom. Meaning Jordan was so high, so quick, people just loved him and just kept riding that. I think they rode that wave. So yeah. I don't think Jordan belongs to the list that I named earlier, because I don't think he had near the haters those other people had. Because if anything, young 10, 12-year-old boys loved Jordan when he was 20 years old and just loved him to this day. They wear his shoes. I mean, I don't think the hate for Michael Jordan was there. Shaquille O'Neal, I'm sorry, I've never heard much hate of him. Nope. He came out, he was great early. People understood quickly this is physically the best, thing underneath we've ever seen. You just didn't see much hate. LeBron James, again, there's haters for a few weird reasons early when he did that big move, and did the big show. The decision. But I think that was more of a bad decision on his part, and people just didn't like the decision. But in the most part, people love LeBron James. I mean, because he's been so great so long. Again, I don't think he belongs on that list earlier. The one that I'm surprised if I ever have heard a hateful word about it at all, of great players that went their whole career, is people going, and that's Wayne Gretzky. I don't think and when we talk great athletes, yes, can we name another one that is that great that really just didn't have hardly any hate at all? I mean, he was superior. He just had that perfect attitude, and maybe what you said's right. He had some brassness, but at the same time, he had respect of the game. But when I think of great players in my life that I can just look at and go, man, you know what? I don't think I heard anyone ever just go, I'm not watching that game tonight because I can't stand to watch Wayne Gretzky. Another Stanley Cup and it's Wayne Gretzky. I
haven't heard that.
That didn't happen. I mean, so to me, I mean, is there another name? I mean, obviously, yeah, there's people that people never hated because they didn't do anything. But when it comes to, superstars that we can say, hey, there's a superstar that didn't have a lot of hate.
For sure.
I mean, definitely to me, Wayne Gretzky's up there as far as those type, and to me, it's rare, right? Because people love hating successful players most of the time.
Yeah, that's typically the case. And I think in his case, I think he was good, especially in an era of hockey where that was, I think, to me personally, I think that era of hockey was one of the, you could still draw a few, like some of the greatest names, like from that era of hockey that people still respect to this day. And that I think that Gretzky was just a part of that. And I mean, and he remains as one of the greatest hockey players of all time. So it's hard to even go back now and look at him and find a reason to hate him for anything that went on, like while he was still playing.
Right. But even when he played, there were some haters, and there were a few people that hated his team even a little bit. I'm trying to think of the other guy that played with him that went on and played, I want to say, with the Rangers later on. They played together quite a bit. When he left and went to the Rangers, there was some hate, even though he went there and won. But Douglas Boyle, who was on my show last night, the Roundtable. Yeah, early on, I think there was a little anti-Magic sentiment. I agree that. But at the same time, Shaquille O'Neal was just a big kid to a lot of people, which that made him hard to hate. Tom Brady's no young kid, No. So it's back to Mahomes. What would Mahomes have to do right now to be hated? It'd be hard because, he is just kind of a young guy, and people would say right now Mahomes could do a lot of stuff. And people go, that's just because he's young. But if Tom Brady did, they just go, I hate that son of a bitch.
Yeah, I mean, what was it? Was it ketchup on steak, or like he used a bunch of ketchup, the Mahomes thing or whatever? Right. And everybody, I mean, it was more of a joke than people hating on him for it.
Right. I'm just reading the chat room as we're going, here too. And Malpal mentions, and you know what? Malpal might be right there. Walter Payton. Was one of those players that was an all-time great very, very good person for football. That again, I think everyone respected. Everyone, just liked the way he did things. So that's very good. Thanks, Malpal. I missed. Because to be honest, football was the one I was trying to go the most, because it really does seem in football people hate everybody. It seems like, I don't know if it's the type game it is or whatever. But
because even now that I think about it, no, because when Jason Witten was still playing, now that he's in the booth, a lot of people hate him. But when he was
unfortunately, he was on the Cowboys. Anyone on the Cowboys for a while was.
That's true.
There was just a lot of hate because they were associated with the Cowboys.
Yeah, that's true.
I'm just even trying to think of some of the all-time greats in football. Dan Marino later in his career, I think a lot of people liked him early on, but he had a weird attitude. And even though they didn't win, I think there were some people though that rooted for him to at least win. Halfway through his career, in the middle there, I think some people hated him because he was a pretty cocky, Midwestern boy. But towards the end of the career, I think a lot of people jumped on that bandwagon of, hey, let's see if Dan can get a ring. Ryan Sandberg of the Cubs. That's a pretty good one. Don't recall hearing much. Again, I grew up with the Big Red Machine. A lot of people hated. People hated Pete Rose. If you weren't from Cincinnati, if you weren't from Cincinnati, people hated Pete Rose. Right. People hated him because he hustled. I always found that funny. Barry Sanders. Not a bad name for football. I mean,
that's a good one.
I'll give you that one. But again, I go back with the Tom Brady thing, though. I know Walter, we can say won one Super Bowl, but most of his career, the Bears weren't competitive, not like the Patriots. And definitely Barry Sanders was never on a team that was competitive. So is it easier to love an all-time great if they're on a team that's not winning?
Yeah, that's true.
That does make it a little harder. I don't go far enough back to know, did people hate Jim Brown? I mean, obviously one of the greats of all time. And during his era, he definitely was the GOAT in his era. What he played 8 years and, still holds most of the rushing. Or held at some point all the rushing records. Again, it's hard to say because I think back then the hate was not spread around like it is today,
Right. Now with social media and whatnot, having instant access to people's opinions and whatnot.
Right. So, I don't know. It just made me think that it just seems like this week, and I'm sure it's going to continue. I have a cashier every morning where I go in and get stuff for my lunch. And, she is just such a Brady hater. And all week I was teasing her that I'm rooting for Brady and blah, blah. And, even when I'm in her line, she's like, the Brady lovers next.
Oh my goodness.
This is a, 60-year-old woman that just cannot. Now, she's a Colts fan and she loves Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning's the best that ever happened ever in the world. But she just can't buy into Tom Brady, whatever. Ken Griffey Jr. You know what? Probably not a bad one. Again, probably this should have been a top. Now that it's turned into a longer topic, this is probably a topic I should have, worked on for the roundtable.
There's a lot of good names on there.
More than I came with. Obviously, I didn't sit and list all the way, but I guess, guys, while you're out there, can you add to my other list of really great? That's the problem. I still think I'm looking for that other Tom Brady name. Who's the other GOAT or great player that just never gets the hate doesn't go away. Everyone, we're naming are people who had no hate at all. My concern is, I started this because I just don't think Tom Brady's opening up a new threshold of hate here is what I feel. Because it's not turning. Most people in their 40s, I don't know, how old is he now? 41, 42? I don't even know.
I was 42.
Most people who play a sport that can last that long have earned the respect, and that hate just goes away out of longevity, and it's just not. If anything, it's getting worse. So
yeah, I think he'll be one of those players that he'll get the respect he deserves after he's done.
Right.
I don't think while he's still playing for New England, he'll be very much respected. I think the hate will continue until he's done.
Right. So, and they're saying Arnold Palmer, and I was going to write Nicholas and all that, but my problem with golf a little bit is, and that's why, and I don't want to put race into it, but some of the hate for Tiger came. I'm sure some people would argue or debate that. If Tiger would have been a 21-year-old sweet little white boy, the hate might have been a little less. And I don't mean that in a bad way. Well, I guess I do. Maybe you know what I'm saying. Tiger was, there were people who just hated him because he was a brash young man. I mean, when Tiger was one of the first in golf that brought that fist pumping stuff. And I know a few did it a little bit, but Tiger brought it. And that there were just some golf people that went ape, shit over.
They didn't want to see any of that stuff.
Nope. But again,
it was targeting sport.
And if it was a white boy pump fisting for the first time, I'm not sure they just said anything. But at the same time, that they hated that red shirt on Sundays.
Yeah. On Sundays, the red and black,
and those fists. But that's my problem with golf. There's not much hate in golf anyway because it's. I don't know. Just I never heard hardly any hate.
I don't know. People hated Daly, man. They really did.
How do you hate that? That boy
I thought he was the best. I thought he was the best thing for golf. I mean, before Tiger came along, you wanted to talk about somebody that could really ruffle people's feathers.
Hey,
look at that big man.
And me and you've talked twice about him on here with his son and him and the father-son tour. They cracked me up. I mean,
they're the best. But I think back in those times, the expectation for golf was that was the gentleman's game.
I agree. I mean, definitely that.
And Daly was no gentleman.
Right. Now, the other issue then, before we move on to this topic that was supposed to last 10 minutes is Serena the only woman that I could come up with that there was a lot of hate that was a great? Do we give women more respect maybe, or don't? I couldn't think of anybody else off the top of my head. Obviously Venus, her sister, for a little while, but because she wasn't as great, I don't think the hate got as great. I mean, because again, when you win a lot, the hate just comes from you hate to see them win again.
Right.
I don't know enough about women's golf or anything like that.
But I thought with Sharapova, I thought because of her whole doping thing, I thought she became pretty hated.
I mean, maybe last year. Now that I say that, I'm not going to use the word hate, but there was a lot of bad. Who's the little blonde chick that never won anything that was on all the commercials and making all the money?
Kournikova.
Nope.
Well, that was Anna Kournikova. No.
Yeah, Anna Kournikova. Yeah, thank you. I didn't hear the Anna part. Anna Kournikova. There was a lot of hate about her because she even on the tour. That's a good name because even on the tour, other women tennis players were a little upset of all the money she was getting just
being there.
Right, sponsorships and some of that stuff. I forgot. I mean, to me, that's not a bad name. I'm not sure the hate left because she did. She just said, you know what, I don't need this.
Right.
I think she's with the one Mexican singer now. I think they got I can't
Enrique
think.
Iglesias?
Yes. I mean, they have a couple kids together. I mean, they're a
really?
great couple, I'm sure. I think they do. I think they're so, but my point is, yes, some of the hate came from her was just because she was too attractive. So, all right. We have to all agree those named Brady's face is most punchable. I don't know.
That is correct.
So, and I think it's funny, Chris, that you're on the side of everyone else. It's the fact that he's so modest.
That's not being modest. I dispute that that's not being modest. You've won 5 Super Bowl rings. You do not get to sit there and say, well, everybody's betting against us. I don't know if we're going to be able to win again. We've already got 5 Super Bowl rings. 8 straight AFC championships. No, but
I said it last night. I've seen it a couple times where people were like, "Oh, he just had a terrible season this year." And I've had to type every time in the chat room when someone says that, I'll say fantasy and a question mark. Meaning, if you're talking fantasy, I agree. He was a terrible fantasy quarterback as far as value goes. But as far as a quarterback in the regular season, he did what he needed to win, 11, 12, 13 games.
Quarterback, he was well above replacement.
Exactly.
As a fantasy quarterback, no, he was not good.
You can't say that he had a bad season. You can't say that. The people who are saying that are fantasy people.
So I'd say that drives most of it, because everybody drafted him in like the 5th round, expecting he was still going to be what we wanted him to be, and he's not that anymore.
Malpal, I will agree that Tanya Harding is hated. I would not put her on this list because she was never a great. She was very good, but she, I'm saying her career was as far as a starlet, I know she was very good at a young age and did some things athletically that no other skaters did.
Before we fit, okay, so here's a good one. Just take this aside. What about OJ?
Oh, well, OJ was loved as a player. He was loved when he stopped playing. Running through airports, people still loved him.
Yeah.
Obviously, people switched to hating him for a whole other.
That was a little bit different for a reason. But I thought even while he was playing, there was a decent contingent of hate for him being who he was, especially coming out of college. And I thought, for as great as he played, I thought there was still a decent amount of hate for him. Like
I think there was early on because of the Heisman Trophy.
Yes.
But I think that quickly went away because the Bills sucked so bad. He was the only thing they had.
That was it.
I mean, so I guess I still don't think he had the hate of people we already named. And again, the hate that came later, the hate that came later is really nothing to do.
That's because he lost his mind.
Cha saying A-Rod. A-Rod again has hate and love for different reasons. I
think anybody on anybody associated with the Yankees, man. Because
like
Jeter.
It's like being on Dallas. It's like being on Dallas. You get thrown the hate word just because of the team you're associated with.
Right, because it's Jeter. I mean, for as great, even I liked Jeter going in. Like as soon as it was towards the end of his career, over the last for his last 2 seasons, that's when I started to appreciate Jeter. More. Right. In the Yankees heydays, I couldn't stand the guy.
Right. Kyle Busch in NASCAR, he's a great and he is hated. That's a good one. But for totally the opposite. I mean, there's nobody that has a shittier attitude. Even when he's right in the middle, he will show that attitude on the track. He doesn't hold that attitude back even on the track. A very good one, Malpal.
I don't know. I thought Tony Stewart was pretty hated. I thought he was worse, to be quite honest with you.
You know what? Tony Stewart, I mean, and obviously being a NASCAR guy a little bit when he, in air quotes, when the guy passed away that he ran over, and if that happened on purpose or not, we'll never know. But there was a lot of hate for him. But see, there was a lot of hate for you know what? Dale Earnhardt Sr. would to me be similar to Tom Brady to a point where he was loved by a big mass. But the problem is if you weren't in that mass, you hated him just as much.
Oh yeah.
But at the same time, especially towards the end when he hadn't won at Daytona, a lot of the haters flipped over to go, I respect him now. I'd like to see him win.
For him. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's my point. Tom Brady's not getting that switch, at least not now. Maybe when he's 47, and
I'd say give it a couple seasons.
When he's 47 and he's quarterback for the Buffalo Bills in their next playoff run, then maybe Marshall Holman Jr. Don't even know the name, Cha. So I don't know if I'm missing somebody there. Chris won't know him either. So, all right, Chris, off the rails again. What's the odds that me and you would go off the rails on a topic that was supposed to last 10 minutes?
Is that a bowler?
Dick Weber. I love Dick Weber. Chris, you knew a bowler?
No, I just Googled him.
You Googled?
I Googled him to find out who that was.
Marshall Holman or Dick Weber? Dick Weber was
Marshall
a bowler.
Holman.
Yeah, okay. I mean, I do know Dick Weber. I watched Dick Weber back in the day. Easy, come on, most hated bowler. I guess he must have come after my bowling time because obviously on Saturdays we only had so many televisions. I mean, the PBA, the Pro Bowlers Association, I used to watch those guys roll all the time. Mm-hmm. So the chat room, hey, we come up. Oh, you know what? Again, Douglas is on top here. Lance Armstrong.
That's a good one.
But the problem is the hate came after. That's the difference. Yeah. That's why it's hard to put him on this list. Mark Roth was a dick. But Mark Roth, another bowler. Bowlers in general are dicks. Maybe we'll just go there. I'm not a big bowler. I suck at bowling. I'm a good drinker. I suck at every sport that you drink while you play it. I can't do darts. I can't do pool. I can't do bowling. I'm good at the sports that you drink after, but if you drink during that sport, I suck at it.
Right.
So, I can't go there anymore. I'm sorry, but I'm just saying. Back to the thing. That's my problem with Lance Armstrong. He was hated afterwards for a different reason, and that would be the thing. If Tom Brady was loved now and then hated because of something he did when he leaves football, that's different. He isn't getting the. I've won as many Tour de France as Lance Armstrong. I get that because they took them all away from him. I understand that you know.
We're all just as good as Lance Armstrong.
All right, I'll give that. I'll give you that. All right.
We're all just as good as Lance Armstrong.
Obviously, we're already 40 minutes in. We got 20 minutes to go, and I really thought our main topic was better this week. I thought we'd try to get to our main topic before
we went off on a tangent.
Right. And now because we have because fantasy's in our name, I feel obligated usually to at least talk one fantasy topic. So it makes it hard for us to talk about which, hey, every sports show, including the roundtable last night, talked about the good play, the bad calls, all that shit. So I'm not sure we're going to add much to that anyway, other than me and you could have talked about it if we hadn't just wasted. I'm not going to use the word wasted. This was a fun conversation, but you know what I'm saying? And we have another week to talk. We'll have another show before the Super Bowl, so we'll talk about what's going to happen at that point. But if we have time, we'll maybe delve into a little bit. But the main thing I wanted to talk about tonight, because I brought it up last week with Lenny, wanting to kind of handcuff trading in fantasy, and I felt that he was taking away one of my spokes. One of the skills that I could bring as a fantasy player was my ability to get trades done. So so that made me think, what would be a list? What would be and I don't even know how many there would be. So I thought tonight we would make a quick list, and then we can maybe put them in order of importance at some point. But would we not, as far as the skill, and I don't even know how to word it. I mean, would the skill of trading or negotiating or getting trades done, what skill is that a skill? Is it a skill that can make you a better fantasy player? And guys, we're going to talk. This is football, baseball, basketball. It really doesn't matter. These skills to me are fantasy skills. With baseball season coming, but let's start. What do you think the number one skill? What do you think? And maybe there isn't one. I mean, they may be all important, but what do you think the number one skill of being a good, and I'll just use the word, a successful fantasy player where you're getting to the playoffs on a regular basis? Is it? And see, that's hard. Let's just start with, is player knowledge a skill?
No.
So player knowledge is not a skill. Then what would be, as far as is just drafting or the knowledge of drafting in fantasy? Is that a skill?
Yes, I think that's a skill. Player knowledge, it's nice to have, but I don't think it's really required. So player knowledge. What about player? I don't know. How do you word it then? Player. Maybe I'm putting identifying value.
Player value is the same thing, because to me in fantasy, because we're only talking fantasy here, to me, knowledge of a player is value, I guess. And maybe that's why I'm wording it wrong. Maybe someone in the chat room will come up with a different word. Skill recognition. I like that. Would skill recognition or player skill recognition?
I think it's just more about, can you identify value?
Okay.
I think that's really what it comes down to. So if you're able to understand a player's cost versus what their realistic floor and ceiling is, so that you can say, I'm going to draft that person either at cost, be aggressive. So right now we have identify value as a skill. Yep. All right. So trade negotiation, or, I mean, again, how would you word it? Do you think that's a skill? The ability to get deals done. How would you word it? Or, just trade. I think just trading in general. I don't know because negotiations is just one part of it. Sure. I mean, and obviously it's part of setting up the offer,
Right. So we'll just put trading, blank, just trading. That opens up a pretty big. So trading is a skill. Yep. What about lineup skill? The ability to set a lineup on a daily basis, weekly basis. Is that a skill? Is that, it technically all comes still back to knowledge of players, but maybe bench management or team management. Is team management a skill?
Yes, absolutely.
Fantasy
roster management is a huge skill.
Okay, roster. Thank you. Roster management is a skill. Mm-hmm. All right. We got 3 spokes. You still don't think player evaluation or drafting? Maybe is drafting a skill? If we just
absolutely, yeah.
So we're just going to put drafting, the ability to draft. Even though player value is similar, you feel that's 2 different things, because player value you can use all season, not just at the draft, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
All right. So skill of drafting skill. That's 4 spokes. I'm just going to read the chat room real quick. Trading is a skill. Get more than one deal done. I think drafting versus trading work against each other. The best drafters don't like to trade. I agree. That was part of my deal with Lenny saying he was against trading. That was my point. And that's where we're going to go with this is if these are skills, they all have to be weighed equally, I feel. Meaning you can't have a league and a commissioner set up and go, well, I'm really good at these 3 skills, so I'm going to more or less say this skill doesn't going to count. I'm going to take it off. Meaning once your roster is set, you can't change it anymore. You've taken a guy who can manage rosters, that skill away from him. If you have a league where, hey, we're going to auto draft everybody's team, well, you've taken away the skill of drafting for that guy, the guy who's prepared. Before we go there, is there a 5th skill? Can we come up with something else? Right now we have identified player value, the ability to trade, roster management, drafting.
I think the other part is risk management. I think that's a skill in and of itself. So when we're talking about should I pick up a player coming off injury and stash them, there's a risk associated with holding
and you them. Think I'm just going to ask, is that part of identifying value though? Or do you think that's a separate skill? That's my point. I'm trying to narrow down what are the 4 or 5, maybe 4 is all we come up with. If something else fits in there, quickly the way you word that, I kind of put that under identify value because
that's just one example. Because we could also talk about holding multiple quarterbacks in order to maybe block another player. That's risk management because you're setting yourself up with holding an extra bench slot for just one position, and that hurts you. But you have to quantify the risk. Is that something that you're capable of doing by dropping another player to have that extra quarterback? So there's strategy involved in that.
Douglas Boyles is saying, does roster management include waiver participation? And I would agree, yes. Roster management is part of, waivers is part of roster management.
Absolutely.
And that's the problem. Technically, you could put trading under roster management, but the skill of trading to me is a separate entity. You have to have, and that's why I say negotiation as much as trading. It's part of that. So you think risk management?
Yeah, because that even can go down into because I think part of risk management could also be the types of players that you want to have on your team. Are you going to draft? Are you going to draft players at the start of the season? Like for people that were drafting Mark Ingram at the beginning of the season, you didn't know how things were going to go out. That's a risk. Right. Aaron Jones, you didn't know how things were going to go out. 1, after he came off of suspension, and then 2, once he came back, how that backfield was going to look.
Right.
We knew he was talented, but we didn't know.
Right. I'm a risk player when it comes to fantasy. Personally, I do, I'll go out on a limb and people's, now again, I feel they're good trades, but I'll try to trade for a hurt guy here and there, meaning I'll try to buy low on a hurt guy.
But that's a risk. Like me personally, I hate doing that. Right. That's the one thing that I don't like to do.
Some people don't like it. Yeah. Now, but that's back to roster management. I don't do it in a way to hurt my roster. I do it in a way if I go, hey, this guy's probably never going to start for me. This guy needs him. But if so-and-so comes back off injury, he's a starter. So I do those kind of thought process. Now, also, Douglas in the chat room, and you're right, in Roto baseball, simple math could be a skill. And yes, if you're in a points league or you're managing points, math itself can be a skill. But at the same time, I think that goes a little bit under roster management, because you're managing your roster, right? When you're managing your roster, you're kind of doing that math a little bit, saying, hey, I need more stolen bases. So I need that. So personally, I think math could go underneath that, which, like I said, I'm trying to come up with more, specific. Hi, Andrea in the chat room. Andrea's one. I'd love her opinion if she has one as far as what she thinks the 4, 5, or 6. And that's my point. I think if you get more than that, then I think what we've got for right now. So read them off. We got 5 now. Right now, I have 5. The ability to identify value. So we have this. The next skill we have is the skill of trading or negotiation. Then we have roster management as a fantasy skill. We have drafting as a skill, and then we have risk management as a skill.
Those all sound solid to me.
Okay. So just the realization that you need more stolen bases. I mean, I'm not arguing that it's not, but when you need the stolen bases, you have to manage your roster to get that, is what I'm saying. I'll be the first to tell you math is needed in Roto baseball. I've only been doing baseball a few years. I've done a few Roto leagues, and I do have to stop. And he's saying simple math. Unfortunately, there's times where I'm not even sure it's simple because you have to weigh, and I know, Chris, you don't do much baseball, but you have to weigh, if I give up home runs, am I ahead enough in home runs that no one else can pass me? So I'm going to give up a home run guy to get a stolen base guy. And then if I get the stolen base guy, is that enough stolen bases to get above the guy ahead of me anyway? Meaning if the guy ahead of me is 50 stolen bases ahead of me, it's not worth trading anyway, because I'm not going to find a 50 stolen base guy with 2 months to go. It's hard to do. It makes it harder, but yes, I do agree in Roto, especially math is definitely needed. Anything else that we would identify, or anyone chat? I don't think no one in the chat room has come up with anything lately. Math is the last thing. I just have that as a final little thing.
Keep it simple for right now, and I think those 5 are a solid start.
Okay, and again, I think most people would say 5 is a pretty good spoke. I mean, pretty good wheel. There's a lot of wheels that have 5 spokes. That seems to,
wrong with that.
Now, are they so important that we can't put them in any order? I mean, that would be the next thing. Are they, because that's part of the problem. Lenny would say trading is not a needed skill because he doesn't like it. For him, I'm sure you put on the bottom. Lenny would say value and identifying value or drafting would be a much more important skill because that's his strong point. He knows players, he knows young guys, he knows the sleepers.
Yeah, I would say I could agree with that because you can get by, at least in a redraft fantasy football league, you could get by on just playing the waiver wire. You don't have to complete one single trade, negotiate one trade in your league, and you can make it to the playoffs and possibly win a championship. So I don't think it's as needed as the others. I could agree with that.
But even the way you word it makes it hard to say one's more important than the other because one guy might not have that skill, and it might not even be the knowledge or the ability. It might be the time or whatever. I mean, some guys would say, hey, I love, I try to do the waiver wire as much as I can, but, Tuesday nights is bowling night. I drink a lot. So I don't, my waivers don't do very well. So you know what? Screw waivers. I got to make a few trades,
True, but I'm yet to see somebody make it to the championship that just had a completely horrible draft. I mean, unless something completely worked out in their favor. I mean, ask the folks that drafted Le'Veon Bell this year. Unless they picked up James Conner, they were probably SOL for their entire season. So that's where I would say that in terms of trading versus drafting and like roster construction and even risk management, I would say trading might go behind most of those because you could get by without doing trading. You can get by.
Well, I mean, my argument would be that's part of this deal. You technically get by with 4 of these 5 skills.
Yeah, you can get by.
And the argument would be, does it really matter which one? My point is, I mean, I'm sure we could all sit here and go, well, if we don't need this one, but I'm good in these 4, that's my point. I think, you could still be a pretty successful fantasy player if one of these skills, any of them, was a problem, as long as the other 4 were good and maybe one of the other 4 was great. I mean, so, but I do think if I had to weigh them at all, identifying value to me might be the most important, because there's a little bit of identify value in all the other ones. Meaning identifying value helps you as a trader. Identifying value helps you as a roster manager. Identifying value helps you during your draft. Yeah. Identifying value helps you control your risk management, right? So if I had to weigh any of them, identify you values or knowing values of your players at any given time, probably a pretty important, or maybe that would be the number 1.
Yeah, I could agree with that. I mean, that would go towards the top. For me personally, that would go towards the top. Right.
And right. Douglas is saying, that he's been very successful in fantasy, but he admits he's a horrible trader. I've seen many leagues where the guy that wins it didn't make a trade, which would be my argument. As long as you're good at some of these others, trading might not be the one that you have to worry about. Yeah. It makes it harder for me because trading is a skill I bring. So I do see that. But at the same time, I have no problem if we decide number 1 would be identify value. And maybe the next one, if I had to put on there, roster management to me might be number 2.
I could agree with that. Yeah, roster management.
So because, again, if you can identify value and you can manage your roster, you're going to be pretty competitive probably, yes. Without having to trade, yes. So I do believe that if I had to, number 2 would be roster management.
I agree.
So now we're down to 3: trading, drafting, and risk management. The problem I have with putting trading or drafting very high, even though I know there's people like Andrew out there that love drafting as their number 1 thing and all that. The problem with drafting is it only happens once. You can be really good at it, but if you either screw it up or you're marginal, you can't fix it. So even though it's a skill, it's a pretty important skill. But you can't do it but one time. But at the same time, is that why you have to put it a little higher? Meaning you got to put it higher on the list because you only do it once. You don't want to screw it up.
Yeah, I think that would be my reasoning for putting it next on the list, is because it sets up your entire season. If you start off on the wrong foot, I mean, there's a chance that you're sitting there at 0-2 to start the season, and that's what leads to poor management or overcorrection, trying to think, well, I got to get rid of some of these players because now I can't. And I got to start trading these players because they're not doing it for me, or I need to drop this player, I need to drop that player, or completely switch up your strategy because you're overreacting to the fact that you had a poor draft.
Right. And then, the problem there is, like I said, my problem is roster management and drafting can go hand in hand. I mean, if, you almost have to be both. And drafting, obviously, there's going to be some risk management there. All right, so we're going to put that number 3. So now we're down to trading and risk management. And again, some people might say those are similar, but
I put risk management ahead of that because that's speaking to, all right, well, now that I'm in, even if it's during, let's say if it's during drafting, now then you're making the decision as to what types of players you want to invest in. Do you want to invest in the players that aren't going to be available until week 4 or week 6 because they're coming off injury or suspension? Do you want to invest in some of these offenses that you really don't know much about, but but you think some of the players might be able to pop.
Right.
Or even once you're in season, all right, well, some of these offenses aren't doing really great, but this matchup looks great, so I'm going to take a risk by picking up. I mean, that's what streaming quarterbacks and tight ends is all about. Risk management. And you're banking on understanding the matchup.
And the same in baseball, even in roto stuff. Later on, you have to, is the trade to get stolen bases worth the risk of losing your home runs or losing your strikeouts? So I agree with that. Andrea and I just want to make sure, Malpal is saying trading for need is a skill. I agree. And that's why we have trading on here. And that's what's nice about trading. Trading is part of roster management. Also, trading can fix drafting faults. Trading can fix some value that you screwed up. Excuse me. Andrea is saying identify your own needs as a skill.
I'd say identifying your own needs, identifying your own weaknesses, because as you were saying earlier, if Lou doesn't think that trading is important, I mean, he already knows because he doesn't, he's not all that great at it. Then he already knows that he can focus on the other 4 things on the list.
It's Lenny, not Lou, and it's not that Lenny's not good at it. Lenny just thinks it hurts leagues when bad trades happen. So
I mean, that's a risk, but I mean,
exactly, it's a risk, but to me, it's not a risk that's worth removing if it's one of the major skills you can have. That's my point. But and the reason I said that, I kind of like what Andrea is saying. So we have to decide, is this an opportunity for a 6th skill, which is fantasy team owner awareness. Maybe that's different than she's saying identify your needs. I'm just saying is awareness a skill? Meaning just being aware of I've got a problem, or I've got an overlay of skill here I need to train, meaning it is that a skill of fantasy? Is being aware or identifying your needs? I mean, do we have a 6th skill here, or does that fit under one of these others?
No, I think that's a 6th skill, but I think that's more of I don't know if it's, what's the word I'm saying? It's more meta than anything else, because you're describing what you're trying to do as an owner, like what you're capable of doing as an owner, and identifying your own needs and and what you're capable of. I think that almost falls into everything that we've been discussing, because if you don't like trading, then you're probably going to put that as something that's last. But if you love trading and think you can assemble a team better than everybody else, then you probably don't care about all the rest of the stuff.
I guess right. And while you were saying that, I'm thinking in my head, if anything, identifying your own needs or being aware as an owner, to me, that's the top of the list. I mean, that's the reason you have this list of skills. These 5 skills are what you need to be aware and to be a good fantasy owner. So I guess it's hard to make that a skill when that is the objective of these 5, is to make you a good fantasy owner.
Right.
It makes it, I kind of agree with Andrea. Identifying your own skill or your own needs, that to me is just part of being an owner. So we're down to, so we decided then trading is number 5. Risk management is 4. Trading is number 5. But at the same time, I think after talking this through, even though we have an order now, there's still, the weight is pretty close, right? I mean, so here we are. Me and Chris have done it, tonight. I'm coming down the mountain with my rock with writing on it. We have the 5 fantasy management commandments.
Yeah.
And that would be, thou shalt identify value. Right?
Yes.
Number 2, thou shalt manage thy roster. Correct?
Yes.
Number 3, thou shalt study and prepare for the draft.
Yes.
Number 4, thou shalt risk management.
Manage thy risk.
I love there you go. Right. thou shalt manage their risk. I love that. That's good. That's good. Number 5, thou shall trade. That's a hard. Thou shalt try to work good deals.
Yeah, thou shalt make trades.
Thou shalt negotiate with others.
Offer trade and negotiate.
Right. Thou shalt not be afraid of trading. Maybe that should be it. Thou shalt not be afraid of trading.
Yeah.
So, all right. There we go. So, I mean, I'm sure someday, people will text or tweet me or whatever. Or somebody will listen to this and go, "We're crazy," and that was nuts. But I think we're close. I think, I've never done one that expensive. What are you talking? Oh, I think they're talking about. They're talking about high stakes stuff. And okay, and I agree. The problem with high stakes now, it's not to me, and I know Lenny always throws that in here. That becomes more of a money / risk management on a whole nother level.
Yes.
If you're going to get in a high stakes league, you just have to know who's in it and all that. That's any, situation where there's money involved and what you're doing. But at the same time, if I was to get in I don't know what some people think if you're in a $50 league, that's a high dollar league, but let's say $500 or more. If we want to consider that a high risk league, $1,000 league, if I personally would not get in one of those, if trading was something that was forbidden, you're taking away one of my spokes.
Right.
Meaning, now at the same time, I wouldn't get in one of those if I didn't trust everyone in the commissioner. Also, I guess thou shalt trust everyone in league. Maybe that should have been.
Because I would think that
trust others.
The perception of collusion in leagues like that would be so much higher. I'd be so much more sensitive to a bad trade. Now, it wouldn't even have to be collusion. If it would just be a bad trade, if it's for $500 a pop to get into that league, I would be much more sensitive to that than if I was just in a $30 league.
But again, if my spoke is I convinced the guy to make that trade, and I can prove that, hey, there's no collusion here. I offered the guy 15 trades, and this is the one he said okay to.
It shouldn't matter the league fees regardless if you're able to negotiate a trade. I'm just saying people would be more sensitive to it.
Right.
I'm not against it. I'm just saying that's how people
I'm just saying I would not invest my money in a league where one of these 5 commandments was removed.
Right.
And there are some out there that do remove those, I mean, so, and unfortunately trading, we did put it at number 5, even though we it still has some importance. Trading's the one that a lot of people get rid of. They don't like it. They don't like that trades went down, but normally they don't like it because they're the one that didn't make it, is what I've always realized, so, but I get it. Right. A lot of high stakes don't have trading. A lot of them are, they're just not capable because of what they're doing. I understand that, but at the same time, I don't have to play in them then. I mean, again,
right. Because they want to cut most of that stuff out where it's just, you're drafting and you're working the waiver wire. That's
or if you want to go completely the opposite, I might play in a high stakes league that is, what I want to say, a draft and forget it. What I'm going to call
best ball.
A best ball league, which at that point, you're just gambling on 2 of the skills, and that's value and drafting, and if I think I bring that to the game, I'm willing to invest in that. Then I would play in a high stakes league with that. But if it's a regular season league, then I don't care if it's baseball, basketball, or what it is. I think that, you have to offer and be your league needs the ability to make these commandments happen.
Yes. I agree.
So, right. Thou shalt play by these commandments.
Yes. Amen.
Right. Thou shalt not covet thy other team's players.
I'm gonna, because those are the players I'm gonna try and trade for.
Yeah. All right. I mean, sure. Right. A good point, Chris. We are going to covet other teams'
I'm gonna
players.
covet those players.
Right. Thou shalt not steal the other players unless he accepts the trade.
Exactly.
So, I mean, all that happens. So, All right. Again, we went well over our allotted time. I'm assuming there's no show on 11. I forgot to even ask. I didn't see it in the lineup. Like I said, the show before us got canceled. It looked like so. We had a little slow start in the chat room, but they came around since we had our big topic of 40 minutes, which was interesting. I
like conversations like that. They're fun.
Right. And I'm still not going to be a Tom Brady hater the next 2 weeks. Sorry, chat room. Man, this chat room has hated on Tom Brady for a few weeks.
Just join in.
They hate the Patriots. And again, I am anti-Patriots as much as anyone else until this year now. I am buying me a Patriots hat. I am going to jump. That wagon is going by so slow. I am jumping on that bandwagon. I'm gonna trombone. What if you're gonna jump on the?
I can't believe you're gonna jump on the Patriots wagon when we have a Dayton man going into the Super Bowl. Sean McVay's from Dayton. He went to Miami of Ohio. We've got a Dayton man going to the Super Bowl, and you're hopping on the Brady train. I mean, my goodness.
Now, okay. See, now
call yourself an Ohioan.
No, and that's not it. Okay, here's the problem. I wasn't going to go there, but now you're going to make me.
I mean, this is the closest we're going to get Ohio in the Super Bowl because Cincinnati or Cleveland ain't going to go there anytime soon.
And they don't have that many Ohio boys playing anyway. But my argument here is I'm an AFC guy, so I usually am root. If I don't have a real specific team in the race, I'm usually going with the AFC. So I really was going to root for the Patriots either way. I'm just not throwing the hate down. The NFC is that's not even real football. They have the designated punter in that, on that side over there.
Oh, my goodness.
Right. Oh, my
curmudgeon.
We had that discussion last week about the designated hitter. Are you for or against the designated hitter in baseball, Chris?
I would say I'm against the designated hitter, to be quite honest with you.
You're against it?
I'm against it.
Is that only because the Reds don't have it? I mean, what is your philosophy?
That's part of it. That's part of it.
Yeah. Even though, and that's what we talked about, though, even though every division of baseball, college, the minors, every division of baseball except the National League uses a designated hitter. But Chris says
no. I say no.
Now you're changing your mind.
That's what I originally said. I was.
Oh, yeah, well, that's right. Right. You did say no. Right. You said no designated hitter. I was saying, okay.
No.
Right. Yeah. You like the strategy of, sitting, the double switch or setting your pitcher because you need to run. All right.
There needs to be some strategy. And I think that moves a few more chess pieces around.
Right. If you say so.
You and your backgrounds, man.
I know. I'm just playing. Now I'm just playing for fun.
See, that's how you're going to break it. You keep dicking around with it, you're going to wind up breaking it.
I mean, it's storming here now. I take it you survived all the bad weather we had last week.
Wasn't even here.
Where were you at?
Alabama. Yes, sir.
Nothing good happens in Alabama.
Oh, I was drinking beer and watching football, so I could have done that anywhere in the country. But we were in Alabama.
You were in Alabama. The whole family?
Yes, sir.
All right.
Yeah, drove on down Friday night.
All right. I was here. I was shoveling snow, damn it.
Yep. See, nope. Avoided all of it.
All right. Oh, they don't use it in Little League. Unfortunately, they don't use it in Little League because they probably
don't have any.
In Little League, they have a lot of other weird rules. They're like 900 kids bat anyway. So I'm not even sure what they have other pitching rules. The pitcher can't pitch more than like 31 and a half pitches. I don't know. Don't get me started. Wait, okay. Douglas Boyle. That needs to be a roundtable topic. I'm jotting that down. Roundtable topic is the Little League World Series. And I think me and you talked about one time. I am anti-Little League World Series. So
we talked about it. I remember.
Little League World Series talk on the roundtable because their rules, there is no form of baseball worse than Little League. So, so we'll go there. I'll go there in the round table. Chris, I know you say you're not doing anything right at the moment, but you still have a Twitter. You still have stuff out there. Where can people find you?
You can find me on Twitter at Chris Allen FFWX. But as I mentioned earlier, with the off season hitting, I'm going into hibernation. I've got a lot of research projects that I've been putting off. So I'm already pulling data, and I've reached out to a couple of folks to do some collaboration articles with me. So there's work on the way. But I've just got to actually sit down and write it. So now's the best time to do that.
Hey, I agree. Now's the best time. And, well, that's good. Glad to have you around. We'll be here next Wednesday. The new and improved.
The new and improved. Oh, my goodness.
We will be doing our, 1 year anniversary show is definitely next week. I know for a fact now. So we started last year, the week of the Super Bowl. So we will be talking pretty much Super Bowl next Wednesday night at 10 o'clock here at LennyMelnickFantasySports.com, the Legend Sports Network. So, looking forward to that.
Yes.
The new and improved backdrops. I'll keep playing with them. I'll figure out, I'll do different stuff, and then I'm going to worry. I have to figure out your head a little bit too, see if we can't get you in the I at least need something underneath that says,
Well, see, now I got to get a green screen or something like that. We'll figure it out.
I know, just something that says World Champion Beer Crafter or something. I mean,
I could find something like that.
Yeah, we'll find something. All right. All right, we'll figure something out. Trust me, I bought more equipment than I needed trying to figure this out. So we might be able to work. I mean, we'll figure it out. Everybody in the chat room, Douglas Boyles, Chris Allen was in the chat room. It is nice that you participate. I appreciate you being here, Chris. Cha, Andrew was earlier. Mal Pal a few times, threw out a lot of great names. Appreciate you all for coming out and being with us tonight. Feel free to be here next week for our grand anniversary show. Chris, happy anniversary next week. Say goodnight.
Yes, sir. Good night.
I almost didn't say goodnight there, but I did. Good night, guys. See you tomorrow.
This has been Just a Fantasy Fan podcast. And to keep your fantasies going, follow us at justafantasyfan.com. Say goodnight. Good night.